As a product of the old politics, Polk took pride in his lifelong attachment to Jackson and his relentless opposition to Clay. And with his surprise presidential victory, he not only had regained his own sense of personal destiny, but also had re-established his party's sense of national destiny. His November triumph ensured that his party would dominate American politics for 16 of the 20 years between 1829 to 1849. Interrupted only by the aberrational tenure of Harrison and Tyler. But Polk was not a man to get stuck in the past, and he thoroughly embraced the new expansionist impulse that was capturing the national consciousness. With his limited imagination tied to a propulsive ambition and an unceasing tenacity, he embraced this new outlook without thought of nuance or ramification. On this issue, he had little time or regard for the opposition, whether expressed in the elegant phrases of Clay, the stolid legalisms of Van Buren, or the outraged fulminations of Benton. His mind enveloped the simplicity of the concept, and that is what would propel him through 4 years of national leadership. But this simplicity of outlook shrouded from his thinking an ominous new political reality unleashed by the expansionist impulse, the growing intensity of the slavery issue. The force and danger of that sectional fissure had struck many Americans over the years. Thomas Jefferson had recalled famously that the perils of the issue had hit him like a fire bell in the night. But the nation at large had managed again and again to shake off the intermittent eruptions of the issue and keep it from getting embedded at the center of the nation's politics. Now that was changing. Northern Whigs, outraged by Calhoun's insistence on tying Texas annexation to slavery and the prospect of 5 new slave states along the Rio Grande, increasingly coalesced behind the politics of abolitionism. This put immense pressure on Northern Democrats, who couldn't ignore this growing voter sentiment without risking the loss of political standing. The first test case was New York, where anti-slavery Whigs held the balance of power in 10 upstate congressional districts, and where many Democratic voters remained outraged over the outcome at Baltimore. Democratic dominance was so thin, remarked Senator John Niles from neighboring Connecticut, that the abolitionists could capture the state for the Whigs by luring away a mere 1% of the state's Democrats. Meanwhile, many Southern politicians grew increasingly alarmed at these developments. With more and more Northern Whigs demonstrating abolitionist sentiments, and the Democrats split over annexation, they foresaw a coming assault on their culture, their economy, and their way of life. The cry, annexation or secession, heard with growing frequency among Southern politicians, reflected the deeply embraced feelings on the slavery issue among large numbers of Southerners. There is no evidence Polk took serious note of these developments. Like most Democrats throughout the Jacksonian ascendancy, he considered slavery a side issue, something that just got in the way of the important political objectives, such as preventing concentrations of power in government and commerce, keeping tariff rates just high enough to sustain a prudent national government, finding some means of maintaining currency stability without resorting to a nefarious national bank. And now, in the glorious dawn of expansionism, he added consolidation of the nation's position on the North American landmass from sea to sea. That's where he would direct his concentration, and nothing would deflect him from those ambitious objectives. There might be setbacks along the way, such as the cabinet fiasco with Van Buren and his New York allies. Such things might give momentary pain, but never would they induce him to slow or alter his course. And ultimately even the cabinet makeup wasn't paramount in his thinking. As he had written Cave Johnson back in December, "I will, if I can, have a united and harmonious set of cabinet councilors, who will have the existing administration and the good of the country more at heart than the question of who shall succeed me. But, in any event, I intend to be myself President of the U.S. No one could know, as James Polk began his presidency, just how much that sentiment would guide his actions."